chew. Oh. Okay, yeah, whatever. It's a Ruger Blackhawk Convertible model 45. Shoots 45 long Colt and 45 ACP. Safety check. It's unloaded. Now, I can go into all the particulars about single action revolvers and everything, but that's kind of the same all across the board. It doesn't matter if it's a Ruger, or if it's a Heritage Arms Rough Rider, or if it's a original Colt single action Army, or whatever. They're all pretty close to the same as far as the basic pros and cons. You know, it's only holds 6 rounds, and you got slow reloads, and you know, it's a single action, so you have to cock the hammer for every shot, and so on and so forth. But as far as the Blackhawk in particular, there are a few very strong positives about this gun in particular. First and foremost, loading gate. Now when you load a old style Colt single action, this is again a Heritage Arms Rough Rider, when you load these, you can't just flip it open and turn the cylinder. It doesn't move, it's still locked. You have to put it to half cock. Then you can turn the cylinder and load your individual chambers. Not so with the Ruger Blackhawk. This one, flip it open, you can load each chamber. Two things that are nice about that: one, it's one less step, and two, you don't have to worry about this half cock dropping on a live round. And some people think that's, you know, a huge risk. I don't know. I've had the North American Arms mini revolvers where you had to put it at half cock to load it, and I never had any issues with that because I point it in the safe direction, keep my finger off the trigger, and I keep my thumb on the hammer to keep it from dropping. But, you know, some people, that's a big thing. Another thing, the transfer bar system. This is something that pretty much all modern revolvers have, and this was something I can't say that Ruger invented, but they really did popularize it. If you watch inside here, behind the hammer, there's this thing that comes up. See that little spoon-looking thing in the middle of there? That is the transfer bar. That is what the hammer strikes, and then that, in turn, hits the firing pin, which, in turn, hits the primer of the cartridge. If that is not up, there is no contact between the hammer and the firing pin. Therefore, you can safely carry all 6 chambers fully loaded. You can have this sitting on a live round, and it's not going to be a discharge risk. If something hits the back of this hammer, or if you drop it, it's not going to set off the cartridge in that top cylinder chamber because there's nothing connecting that to that. That is the barrier between the two. In the old style revolvers, for example this has this goofy manual safety thing here, but in the old style Colt single actions, there is no transfer bar. You just have a hammer and a firing pin. So when you have the hammer down like so, it's sitting directly on the firing pin, which means this can still move forward, and that can set off the round that's sitting on. That's why in cowboy action shooting matches, they only allow you to carry 5 rounds in a 6-shot cylinder. That top round, the one that the hammer is sitting on, has to be empty because a lot of those guns, having the old style trigger system, are not safe to carry around that way. So this allows you to carry fully loaded safely. One more round. When you only have 6 rounds, you know, you're dealing with that few rounds. 1 round is kind of a big deal. So that's a big plus right there. Technology improvement. Some people will gripe about that because some people were saying, oh, it makes the trigger pull bad. It affects the quality of the trigger pull. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. I know I'm not Mr. Expert on anything at all, and you know, I'm not a marksman or anything, but I honestly can't tell the difference between that and this. The trigger pull just feels the same to me. It's very crisp, it's light, it's a single action. All it's doing is dropping the hammer. That's it. So, I don't know. For what it's worth, that's that. Now, another thing, this Ruger in particular is built like a Ruger. All Ruger revolvers are built like this. That is to say, it's over-engineered. See how thick this strap is? Now the Rough Rider, it's on a smaller scale, but this is the same shape and everything as a Colt single action or say the Ruger Vaquero, and that is a thinner frame. This is just the same thing, it's just scaled down, but the frame on a Colt and a lot of these other ones has a thinner main frame to it around the cylinder, whereas the Ruger has this huge, beefy, thick, monstrous, thick, raw, solid piece of steel, which allows that to hold some ridiculously powerful loads. This is 45 long Colt right here. You can load this in modern loadings with smokeless powder and such to shoot some ridiculous heavy bullets. We're talking 300 plus grain, and I don't know how many grains of powder, but I mean, it's like the original cowboy loadings are just like maybe a quarter full. They're black powder equivalent. They don't have much power, but you can pack this sucker full where this approaches 44 Magnum levels of power. Really, really stout stuff. Why would you shoot that? Well, if you're either hunting large game or if you're defending against large predators such as grizzly bears and such, a really, really powerful 45 Colt load, if your revolver can handle it, that's something kind of important. So this gun can shoot a lot of different things. In fact, this will pretty much fire just about anything in 45 that you can imagine, other than maybe 454 Casull. 45 long Colt, 45 ACP. Two cartridges right there provide a lot of variety. 45 long Colt, as I mentioned, you can shoot the old style black powder equivalent cowboy loads all the way up to, say, 200 grain jacketed hollow point gold dot blazer, Spirit or CCI blazers, or all the way up to, gosh, 300 something grain hard cast lead buffalo bore plus P raw kill everything, you know, monster loads. That's just this one cartridge. There's a huge spectrum you can do with this one type of cartridge. Then you swap in the other cylinder and you can shoot 45 ACP. Now, why would you shoot 45 ACP when it's ballistically, the original loading, about the same as this? Simple. Cost. This, way cheaper to shoot than this. This, typical standard round lead cowboy loadings or whatever, they are about 50 bucks for a box of 50. That's $1 a shot. This is Spear Gold Dot. This is defensive ammo. That costs $1 a shot, but you can get steel case, cheap Russian full metal jacket stuff for $15 for a box of 50. $15, $50. If you're poking holes in paper, there you go. Feels the same as this when you're shooting it. If you're shooting, you know, same for same bullet weight and everything, this is the way to go. That's the main reason I wanted this. It's because I wanted something that I could actually enjoy shooting and not blow my entire budget on it. Now, the way you get to do that is this here is a separate cylinder chamber for 45 ACP. If you look inside there, see those little ridges inside of the chamber? That is what the cartridge headspace is on. It sits in there and it just stops when it hits that little ridge, which is the edge right here. Whereas these are a rimmed cartridge, and when you drop them into this 45 long Colt, it headspaces on the rim. Doesn't really headspace per se, but whatever. Now the way you switch them out, simple. Make sure you're unloaded. Push in this little pin right here on the side, and then pull this pin in the front here, pull this out. Cylinder drops out. Take your 45 ACP, stick it in there, and then while you're pushing in this pin and rotating this a little bit with your fingers, because you have to line everything up, it's kind of takes some finagling sometimes, but there it is. And you're ready to rock. So just like that, I can go, you know, what, a third of the cost, quarter of the cost for the same fun at the range. So that's a huge, huge thing right there. Another little bonus about the Ruger in particular, rear sight, adjustable for height and, for windage and elevation. That's something you don't get with the standard, you know, Colt single actions. You usually got just a simple groove in the receiver and that's it. You know, fixed front sight and simple rear groove. Ruger Blackhawks, not only do you have this adjustable rear sight, you also get a fiber optic front sight too, which is a lot more visible. As you see here, I have painted the front sight orange. Some people will scream and yell and holler about that. I don't care. I wanted to actually be able to see what I was aiming at, because when you put a black target in front of a pistol with black rear sights and a black front sight, you see nothing. So I did have to add some fluorescent orange paint there, and I put a little bit of white paint on this rear sight here, which is kind of a U-groove similar to Glock. So, but it works. This is a ridiculously accurate gun. Shoots way better than me, which is not saying much because I'm not much of a marksman, but it is very, very accurate. And there is not really any difference in terms of point of aim between 45 ACP and 45 Long Colt, because there is no difference in bullet diameter. Now the other Blackhawk Convertible is 357 and 9mm. 357 is, as the name suggests, 357 diameter. 9mm in inches is 355. You wouldn't think that 2000s is that big of a deal, but apparently some people say it does make a difference in the point of aim. So when you shoot 357 or 38, and then you switch over to 9mm, where it hits on the target changes. Not so with this. As long as you're shooting the same weight of bullet at the same velocity, you're going to get the same results out of this, really. Pretty much the same deal. Just a big difference in cost. And there are a lot of customizable grips available. Tons and tons and tons of different kinds. I got these here. These are not the originals. These are Hogue grips that I put on here. And the originals were these hard plastic, kind of ugly, cheesy, cheap feeling, you know, with the Fire Chicken logo on there. These are the original ones. I didn't really like them. Part of it because of the checker texture, part of it just plastic, and part of it's looks because, I mean, let's face it, wood is sexy. So I put on walnut. These are rosewood, by the way. I kind of wish I'd have gone with rosewood just to make a match, but whatever. Walnut, it's still pretty. Feels a lot better. And the Hogue grips, there are no gaps or anything on there. It's just a perfect fit. I didn't have to sand, file, or anything. It just goes on there, just nice. There's a lot of different grips you can get on these, though. Different woods. You can get logos like Grim Reaper or Dead Man's Hand or Don't Tread on Me or Hello Kitty or whatever trips your trigger. So you can get all kinds of things, different sights available, different triggers. You can get different hammers, the Bisley style hammers or so on. There's just a lot you can do with these guns. So yeah, Ruger Blackhawk Convertible. Awesome, beautiful, durable, indestructible, tough, versatile, accurate. I'm in love. So, for what it's worth, it's my 2 cents on that. Thanks for watching.